Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to wait a couple more minutes to get started exactly at 9. And thank you again for joining. All right. So thank you so much to everyone who's joined us today. Today's webinar will cover some ideas for organizing a great National Drive Electric Week event. And we'll touch very briefly on in-person events, but mostly we'll be focusing on online events this year. All right, before we get started, we just want to take this moment to celebrate Juneteenth. We'd like to recognize the significance of today, June 19th, as a sacred day of freedom for Black communities. Juneteenth honors the day in 1865, on which more than 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was issued, Union soldiers landed in Galveston, Texas, and announced the news of the proclamation to enslaved African Americans. Juneteenth has spread from Texas to other states and is celebrated as a culturally important day for education, connection, and action. Juneteenth takes on even more significance in this moment in 2020 with the global uprising for Black lives. To learn more, please see this article, What Every American Should Know About Juneteenth Freedom Day. So today will be led by myself, Kylie Morgan, and I'm the Assistant Program Manager at Plug in America. We'll also be joined by Elaine Borseth from the Electric Auto Association. She is the Vice President of the EV Association of San Diego, as well as the Membership Director of the Electric Auto Association. She also loves road trips and has driven 120,000 all-electric miles. And our guest speaker today will be Jukka Kukkonen, and he is a Chief EV Educator for Shift to Electric. He teaches EV market and technologies at the University of St. Thomas and coordinates the Minnesota EV Owners Group. He has done hundreds of EV presentations and events since 2010, and over 20 of those have been online during the last 3 months. So he's going to give us a lot of great details about online events. And finally, thank you to our platinum level sponsor, Nissan Leaf, who is the exclusive automotive sponsor of National Drive Electric Week. And also thank you to our silver level sponsor, Clipper Creek. All right, so for those of you who don't know, National Drive Electric Week is a national campaign of EV events that are organized all over the US by individuals and organizations. We also have a few international events every year. Plug in America, Sierra Club, and the Electric Auto Association are the national team that provides support to events. So we provide support like free educational materials, an online event page, press contacts to help promote your event. We also offer insurance to events. And on our website, driveelectricweek.org, you can find a resources page with many resources for both in-person and online events. And also, before we go any further, just a note that if anyone has any questions throughout this presentation, I would encourage you to post that question in the chat menu or the question panel. And at the end of the session, for about 15 minutes, we'll get to as many of those questions as we can. We'll also be providing a couple of emails at the end of the session, so you'll be able to email us after the webinar with any other questions. All right, so a little bit about in-person events this year. If you are organizing an in-person electric vehicle event, you should be meeting the requirements of local health authorities. If you'd like to do an EV showcase or a ride and drive, independently consider whether that is appropriate for your community given the current pandemic. We encourage you to plan for a virtual event in advance. Virtual events, they may be online and done from the comfort of your home, but they do take a lot of planning to be done well. So definitely plan in advance in addition to an in-person event. And also, if you're planning an in-person event, consider the safety of both your event staff and your participants. So whatever precautions you're taking, they should protect both your staff and attendees. All right, so let's get into online events. So first, some ideas for online events are, one is a virtual EV test drive, which I'll go into detail in a little bit. Another idea is that you could go under the hood and show people what a plug-in electric vehicle versus a all-electric vehicle looks like under the hood. You can show people how there's less parts and, maybe which parts need maintenance and how EVs offer less maintenance overall. Another idea is to connect people to EV-trained dealerships. You can do this online or, even in person, but the idea is give people that next step. If they want to purchase, they can be connected to a dealership that knows about EVs and can adequately answer their questions. Another best practice is to have timing, focus on your timing and have adequate transitions. So you might want to invite people to stretch for a couple minutes if it's been, say 20 minutes and, they might be tired of sitting in front of the screen. You can also do something interactive or tell a story to break up your presentation. Based on the research that we've done and our own experience, we find that midweek is best for online events. As far as tools go, you can find a list of many virtual conference platforms on our website on the resources page. We list kind of a few features of each so you can see what's best for you. But in addition to what's on our website, there's lots more out there that I'm sure we don't even know about. So definitely search online to find one that works for you. Another tool is the GridView Google Meet extension. So if you have multiple speakers, this allows you to put all the speakers in a grid on the screen, as opposed to only 2 or 3. All right, so here I'm going to go over some common mistakes. So it's important to keep it short and entertaining. You should definitely do a test run for a friend to identify parts that feel slow or boring. A rule of thumb that I read this about presentations that people do for conferences, for in-person conferences, is that they try to keep each segment about 10 minutes long and definitely no longer than 20 minutes. So this can definitely work for online events because you really are presenting to an audience instead of interacting with them like you would at an in-person event. If you're going to use pre-recorded videos, use them wisely. We've had experience with this, and generally people's opinion is that they can watch pre-recorded videos on their own. They're joining your event because it's live and it's unique. So if you're going to use a video, make sure that it's more effective than a live presentation in some way. If it's funny, well-produced, or it just flows visually. If you have a call to action, make sure to save that for the end. We do recommend having a call to action no matter the topic of your webinar. That can be something like signing a petition, making a commitment to talk to a dealership, or something similar. All right, next is make sure to choose the right platform. So there are many platforms out there. Some are more expensive than others. but there's no need to spend a lot of money if you don't need it. The best thing is to just make a checklist of the features you actually need. And there's probably a free or low-cost option for you. Audio quality is also very important. If you're doing a live music performance, they may need some additional technology other than like their computer audio or a headset to make sure that their music comes through clearly. If you're doing virtual test drives, that may also need audio improvements, so a test run is really vital. For example, if someone is filming themselves during a virtual test drive and they have their camera on the dashboard, you may notice that the audio is impacted by the shakiness of the vehicle while it's driving. So just something to look out for. And test runs are crucial because they allow you to test transitions between slide decks and other elements. So for example, in this webinar, we're going to launch a poll later on, and it's important to do a test run so that you see if that poll is well timed, if it's smooth and it looks good on screen. Another benefit is that test runs allow you to identify awkward transitions and parts that feel too long. So it's really important to do a test run where you have everything finalized and you're really able to at least have one person sit back and watch it as an attendee. That way they can get a feel for if certain parts seem to run on or if they want to hear more of something else. And awkward transitions refers to if you have a high-level speaker back-to-back with an EV owner, for example. So if you have a governor of your state speaking, and then you follow it right up with an EV owner who talks about why he went electric, you may notice that the EV owner might be kind of intimidated or, feel uncomfortable going right after such a high-profile speaker. So those are just things to watch out for. And finally, you want to end on the right tone. We've had experience with this on our webinars where, you can have all of these fun elements in the webinar, but you really want to look out for what do you want to leave people with? What emotion do you want to leave people with? So do you want to leave off on something funny, something somber? Do you want it to be motivating so that they take action? That's a really important feature of your event. All right, another idea is sponsor benefits. So for a sponsor, value can generally come from either direct engagement with their target audience or via branding. Branding includes just having their logo on your slide deck, but direct engagement is something that they typically got at in-person events. So it's important to think about how you can offer that benefit even in an online event. Some ideas are that you could have a pre-recorded sponsor message that you play sometime during your presentation. You can also have pop-ups or polls asking attendees if they want to learn more about the sponsor's product. A test run is definitely important here because you can see if those pop-ups feel intrusive. And, for whoever opts in that they want to learn more, you can send those emails to your sponsor so that they can have that direct engagement with their audience. You can also include a sponsor logo on the welcome slide, similar to how we did earlier. And finally, there are several event networking apps that allow both attendees and sponsors to interact with each other. So that's another option. All right. So if you'd like to view the actual video of this virtual test drive, we're going to make these slides available and a recording available after this webinar today. And so you can view Plug in America's virtual EV test drive. But during this presentation, I'm just going to highlight the key parts. So in this virtual EV test drive that we recorded, the first thing that we did was we showed the EV make and model. So you kind of ground people, give them an idea of what this vehicle looks like, and show them it's not a golf cart. It's a real car. Next, we went into explaining how EV charging works, and we showed an example. So this person was using a level 1 wall charger, which we showed in the video. And then after he plugged it in, we showed the dashboard to show people that the dashboard will show the status of charging and what your fuel level is. He also went on to explain that the car shows the estimated miles based on your fuel. So this is important because it gives people a sense of how charging actually works. It makes it more familiar to them, and with any new technology, the best thing you can do is make it less intimidating. So next, we had the driver actually go on the test drive. And one thing that we did was he talked about various EV topics while he was driving. So instead of having someone just sit there, you can use the time they're driving to talk about commonly asked questions. In this case, he talked about how the vehicle performs in cold weather, and he gave really specific examples from his own experience, which was really helpful. It's also important to find creative ways to convey the driving experience. So in this case, we wanted to show the instant torque of electric vehicles, how they speed up very quickly. So while he was merging onto the freeway, the passenger who was recording him recorded the speedometer to show how fast it sped up, and he reiterated that this isn't a golf cart, it's a normal car, and it drives just like a normal vehicle. All right, so next I'm going to introduce our guest speaker, Jukka Kukkonen. Thank you, Jukka, for joining us. And Jukka is actually going to display his video so you can see a really cool example of how you might set up your own video for an online event. Right. Take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Kylie. This is very cool. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here today to talk with you about EV events, and this time online EV events. And as said before, my name is Jukka Kukkonen. I work as a chief EV educator for Shift to Electric, and I teach EV marketing and technologies at the University of St. Thomas. And then I also coordinate the Minnesota EV Owners Group. And we're talking about, of course, National Drive Electric Week events here. And the history of Minnesota EV Owners started from National Drive Electric event. We actually, at that time, it was called National Plug-in Day. Those of you who have been working with these things for a long time remember that first events were called National Plug-in Days. So we did one in 2012, and so many people showed up that we decided, hey, it's time for us to put together a group. So that's when we started the Minnesota EV Owners, and we have grown in the last 8 years to become one of the biggest and most active EV owners, regional EV owners groups in the US. We have about 2,000 members, and we do, in normal year, hundreds of events, over 100 events oftentimes. But this year, of course, is a little different. So things are moving online, and I personally have done over 20 trainings in the last 3 months online, either EV workshops, EV meetings, or stuff like that. So I wanted to share you something about that, of my experiences, and hope you can get some ideas or information about that. And I thought to approach this from one event that many of us are familiar with, is doing an EV owners panel. Most of you have done EV owners panel at your own events. And the question is how to move that online. And I think it actually shifts pretty well online. And it has a little different twist on it, and it's not bad at all. So the setup is like in any EV owner panel. We have a moderator, if it's you or someone else, and then we have 3 to 5 panelists as part of it. And ideally, we want to have panelists who own different EVs. Nowadays, it's very easy to find 5 Tesla Model 3 owners, but that's not the idea. As we know, we want to have variety there, so we want to have Bolt owners, Leaf owners, Chevy Volt owners, Chrysler Pacifica plug-in hybrid owners, whatever. Just have a variety of vehicle owners there, so they can tell a little different story to the audience. And ideally, they would be sitting in their own garage like me right now. This is not the background. This here is actually a real car here. So I'm actually in my garage. And if it's possible, this would be great if your panelists could do this, that they could be in their garage or outside by their car, whichever way. But that way it's more real, and they can show things there. So agenda for something like this is, as usual, moderator opens up with general information. So you'd be talking about EV benefits. What are the EV benefits? And then share information about what kind of models are available and where you can find information about it. We use in our events here in Midwest, we use EV info list that you can find from www.evinfolist.com. So you can check that out if that's a tool, and there will be other tools that will be shared later. But whatever tool you use, just something where people can actually see that there are many models available, and what are the different things that you should look into though when you look at the models. So that's one, and then do a very simple charging 101 there. It doesn't have to be anything more complicated than just have something on hand. So everybody's familiar with level 1 cord set. So you can just explain people, this is the only thing you need to start driving electric. You have a J1772 connector for the car end, and the other end here is the normal household outlet. That's the only thing you need is a household outlet in your garage, and you're good to go. If you drive less than 30 miles a day on average, this works fine. If you drive more, then you should install a 240 volt level 2 charging station, which again has the same level 2 charging for that level 2. It uses the same J1772 plug. This box will be a little bigger, and it will be hardwired and installed on the wall, and those cost $500 to $600. Boom. So that's the only thing you have to say there, and tell them that yep, and it can charge your car overnight, no matter how much you drive. And then you can also tell them about the DC fast charging here shortly. So do this kind of like the basics of charging, and then move into panelists. So then panelists should be there. You should show their picture then, and they would share each on their own time why and how they got an EV, how they use their EV, how they also charge their EV, what's their setup at home, and what they like most about their EV. And that's the only thing that needs to happen. Is like everybody should talk about 5 minutes or less, and then after that you have a Q&A portion, which you can then handle that. So you have the same thing there. People can write their questions on the chat, and then you can ask the questions. You can, if it's a general question, you can start by answering it, asking the panelists if they have anything to add to that, or direct it to the certain panel members if they know that specific area well, or if it's directed to, for example, that Chevy Bolt owner about that, or Nissan Leaf owner, ask them the questions about that. So that way, this has all the same kind of elements as in-person EV owners panel, but I think it can be even a little bit better, because you can see people in their authentic own environment, so to say, so that they are right by their car. They can actually show the car, and even their charging setup. So that's kind of a cool way to do it. I, for example, could here walk to my charging cord and show how that's plugged in. So I would just get up and make sure that my cell phone is with me, so that the car is open like that. And then I just explain people that only thing I need to do is open up the charging port, take the cord here and plug it in, and we're good to go. So that kind of provides a new dimension that we necessarily can't do in some of the in-person events that we've been doing in the past. All right, can I move to the next slide here? Thank you. So then a couple of suggestions based on my experience on these things, what I would recommend you considering. So learn how to run the technology, because it can be a little bit tricky to, if you have to run your own technology there, the whole webinar, and then you're speaking, and then you have to look at the chat and all of that thing. It can feel a little overwhelming. So just try how it is, but don't worry about it at the same time. People are very forgiving. If it takes you a little time, you say, sorry, I'll just get changed to the PowerPoint presentation and so forth. That's fine. It's much better if you have someone else to run the system for you, then you don't have to worry about it at all. Someone else will run the presentation, and you can just concentrate on presenting or moderating or doing whichever way you're running the event there. Or at minimum, have a co-host that can help you in the process. For example, they can take care of the chat portion or anything else to help you with it. My recommendation then is that don't move the camera. Let the camera be stationary like I have here right now, and do the show and tell from one place. If you need to move the camera, then be gentle with it. I mean, if I take my camera here and I start to move it around like crazy, it's people are getting sick in no time, and we don't want that. So it might not be a bad idea to have a tripod, and then you move that. If you already have decided that you want to show the charging port or you want to show the interior, then you just take the tripod and move it to the preset place and show it from there. Test that in beforehand, see how it works, that you actually get the kind of a view that you want. It can be a little tricky with the camera setups. I would recommend using good enough camera and cordless headset. For example, the headset that I have is Logitech C922. It's under $100. There are way better headsets that you can buy if you have funds available and you want to spend on it. You definitely can do that, but something like this works pretty well. I've been really happy with this. And the camera that I'm using is Logitech H800, which seems to be good enough for these kind of things too. So many laptops also have good enough cameras, so you don't necessarily have to buy a separate camera if you don't feel like it. But it's really useful if you want to move the camera a little bit to show a little different view if you do the video, for example, from your garage or something like that. And I would recommend using HD quality whenever possible on your videos. It does help a lot. It improves the video quality a lot. So consider that. I'm sure many of you will be using Zoom as a platform. So a couple of setting recommendations for that. I would recommend requiring registration for the Zooms. Again, this is a security and safety setup. Make sure that only hosts can share, so that if you don't have this one enabled, anyone can share. They can just anytime stop what you're doing and throw their own screen there and have whatever they want in that screen. So you don't want that to happen. Make sure that only hosts can share. And if you have several people who will be co-hosting with you, talking about different areas, maybe they want to share their screen at some point, make them co-hosts, and then they can do that. You can also disable the annotations. We don't really have use for those in these kind of events that we do, and have the system mute everyone automatically. That's a pretty easy thing to do there. What I've really liked in online events is actually using the breakout rooms. It provides you a different way to have people interact with each other than in traditional in-person events. If you are doing a bigger in-person event, you have 40, 50 people there in the room and you're talking to, and it can be a little tricky to have the right kind of conversations going there. But with breakout rooms, you can put people, you have 40 people, you can put them into 10 rooms, system automatically throws them in there, and then you can, before you just tell them what they should be talking about, and then they can talk about that however long you give them time-wise. So I, for example, use that often with the introduction portion. If I have a group where I want to let them to do a little introductions, I can't have all of them introduce themselves online at that event. So I can just put them in breakout rooms and they can talk 4 minutes to each other. And they really like that because it provides them the social aspect at the same time when they're doing their own online event. Also, you can use it for small group discussion sessions if you want to have them talk some certain topic, whatever you decide. And they work well to also break the presentation. If you have a longer presentation or event, you can have a small group discussion sessions every now and then there. So it's a very good tool. Try it out. See how you like using it. That's what I always recommend. Just check it out, play with it, and figure out how it works for you. And then polls. Polls are also very useful. I've found them very valuable. Again, it's really hard to gauge the whole audience interest levels or thoughts in a traditional in-person event, but with online events, you can always use a poll. And just make sure that the questions add value and they are closely related to the topic. And we have one poll here that we'll see how this goes. So Kylie, if you can run the poll, let's see how this works.
Yeah, definitely. Let me launch that now. Okay, just launched.
So here is one of my favorite polls that I use in a Zoom. There I have 10 options, and I let people choose three of those. Now we have only 5 options in this platform, so we are letting you select one, but please select one. Which of the following EV advantages interest you the most? So even though it says choose your top 3, you can only choose one. So,
and just so everyone knows, the poll will disappear from your screen in a few minutes once we give people a chance to answer.
Yeah.
So it looks like we have 64% would say they're most interested in the lower environmental impact, and about 20% are most interested in less maintenance.
So just close the poll. Can you share the poll results after the you do that? Does it
yes.
let you? There we go.
Excellent. There we go.
So now we can see the poll results. This is my favorite question that I use in the polls. It's just to see what people are thinking. What are the EV advantages that they are most interested in? And I, for example, did one workshop for university alumni people. There was about 50 people in that group, and I had actually spoken. I used like 6 or 8 polls as part of it, and I have already explained all the benefits and so forth for the group, and spent quite a bit of time of explaining the better performance element. Is like how it's so much better acceleration and so smoother ride and all of that. And then I did this poll and looked at the results, and no one cared about better performance at all. They were like, environmental impact was the most important for them. I was like, sure, well, that's good. Maybe I should have done this poll before I actually started to spend time with these things. So that's sometimes cool to do, but think about what polls work for you and use them wisely. I think they are excellent tool. And as I said, I think we can actually do many of our traditional events now online. They'll be a little different, but some ways they actually can be much better too. So that's me. Thank you. Let's continue with the other parts.
All right. Thank you so much, Jukka. That was great. We'll definitely direct any questions your way that I received via email, if you receive any. Okay, so next we're going to have Elaine Borsa from the Electric Auto Association.
Well, good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you are in the country. As Kylie said, I'm Elaine Borsett. I'm with the Electric Auto Association and really happy to be here. And as she mentioned, you'll see my email a couple times throughout this presentation and at the end. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions at all, or if there's any way that we can help you here at Electric Auto. So we look at our current situation with essentially being forced into doing virtual events for our chapter meetings as a great new opportunity. Virtual events allow us to reach a much broader audience with new approaches, new capabilities. It actually makes it easier to find speakers, that don't have to travel through San Diego traffic to get to our chapter meeting. They can sit in the comfort of their home and present, and it's a very short time commitment for them. So it's actually been a benefit in some ways. And Electric Auto Association has a business level Zoom account with webinar capability that's available to our chapters. So if you're not yet a member of Electric Auto, be sure to, check out our website, and we have all kinds of different levels of memberships. We've just actually added student memberships that are free to students 18 and under. We have young adult memberships that are just $15 a year for people who are 19 to 25 years old, and it's just $35 a year for regular members. And the Zoom account is available to all of our chapters. We have the capability to actually run 20 meetings simultaneously if we want. And as Yuka mentioned, the breakout rooms, the screen sharing, you can do a whiteboard, polling, you can record the meeting to share it later. You can stream it to Facebook or YouTube with virtually unlimited attendees. So, those are all really, really nice functions of Zoom. And then, of course, other platforms also. There are a number of different platforms, Google Meet and GoToWebinar, and all different types of things. So let's see, if you can go ahead and go to the next slide, Kylie. And then Electric Auto also has PowerPoint presentations that are available on a variety of topics. Is our family's health at risk? Should I buy a new or used EV? EVs in the environment. And those are available to our chapters to utilize whenever they like. And then there are other resources too. So I encourage chapters and people who are presenting for NDEW, get creative. Check out all kinds of different sources. American Lung Association has great information on clean air and EVs. And I know when we do events here in San Diego, I think it's kind of people sit up and take notice when you let them know that the American Lung Association has information and data showing that for every gas car we can get off the road, we'll save about $10,000 in decreased health or increased healthcare costs due to the pollution coming out of that vehicle, increased COPD, increased asthma, childhood asthma, etc. So, and the nice thing is American Lung Association is not trying to sell you a car. They're not trying to sell you on driving electric. They just want cleaner air. So, their information is pretty much unbiased about electric vehicles. And then, Plugstar, of course, is a great resource on incentives, EV-friendly dealers, charging information, and things like that. So, and then you can check out resources at electricauto.org, and we have quite a bit of information there too. So, and then next slide, Kylie. And then videos too. I think Yuka mentioned, and Kylie touched on it too, about videos. Definitely do some practice sessions first. With Zoom, there are 2 little setting buttons that you need to set to make sure that the video buffers correctly and that the sound comes through as well as it can. And many organizations have videos. And you do want to keep those videos short and entertaining. So as Kylie mentioned, the last thing people want to do when they come to a webinar or a meeting is sit and watch a 10-minute or 20-minute video that they can do if and when they want on their own time. Electrify America at normalnow.com has a series of 15-second videos that are kind of cute. There's the Jetstones video that's really fun. Music videos, there are music videos relating to electric vehicles. So, and it's a good idea, we have found, to start your virtual event with some music. That way people can see if their speakers are working and just kind of test their sound level before the event gets going. And of course, YouTube, tons of videos on YouTube. So, you know, whether it's for your whether you're doing a virtual test drive, you can do that virtual test drive yourself, or check out and see if there's a virtual test drive video that you can use, such as the one that Plug-in America will have for you. So it just reduces the amount of work that you're going to have to do to put on the best Indie EW event that you can. So, and the virtual test drive videos, I feel, are going to be really important this year. You know, you really want to, we still want to capture that excitement of driving electric, even though we're not having in-person events necessarily. So having that virtual test drive is great. And then with that virtual test drive, make sure that you do a call to action and encourage people, you know, to go out and reach out to the dealers and find out, you know, are they doing touchless test drives? Because I think almost all of them are right now. So, you know, put that call to action out there with that video that, you know, they need to go out and actually test drive one themselves. So, yeah, videos can really be very effective. And next one. So, and then one of the big things that, you know, we're finding with our meetings even is that a lot of times we're kind of preaching to the choir. You know, one of the polling questions that we do at our San Diego chapter meetings is we start out the meeting with a poll of, do you drive electric or not? You know, do you drive a plug-in hybrid? Do you drive full battery electric? Do you drive, you know, a gasoline powered vehicle? And, you know, a lot of times 90% of the people at our meetings already drive electric. So one, like Yuka mentioned, the polling options really work well, because that way whoever our speaker is can see how to gear their talk. You know, if we've got 90% EV drivers on there, they don't need to go over, you know, EV 101 with that group necessarily. They can touch on it for the few people that are not driving electric, but they don't need to spend a lot of time on it. So one of the things we really need to focus on with Indie EW is how to reach out to those non-EV owners, because that's who we need to get to. You know, we want to get to those EV owners and get them more involved and, you know, get them spreading the word also, but we want to reach out to the non-EV owners. So, you know, how do we do that? And climate action groups in your area are a great way to do that. Eco clubs, whether it's, you know, high school, college, or just a regular eco club. I know near me we have an eco Rotary club. So those are great places. Even things, you know, workplaces, doing Facebook posts, Instagram, Twitter, community organizations, farmers markets, colleges, universities. All of these places have people that are really, really interested in learning, especially now, how do we help the climate? How do we help clean up our air? So these are things that you want to really think about, and how can you best get the word out? A lot of the climate action groups and eco clubs, things like that, they're happy to let you post your events on their calendars. And then a lot of times you can, you know, do the same if you're in a, say, an Electric Auto Association chapter. We'll post the climate action groups events on our calendar sometimes. So, you know, think about those ways to get out there and reach those people, and especially our young people, you know, so colleges, universities, schools, you know, we really need to reach out and get these people involved. And again, you know, they go to electricauto.org for more information on, you know, everything about electric vehicles, as well as resources for your Indy EW events. So thanks so much, and happy to be here today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elaine. Yeah, Electric Auto Association is great. They have lots of resources. And our other partner, Sierra Club, they couldn't join us today because they have a staff holiday to celebrate Juneteenth, but they also have lots of great resources, and they're doing a lot for electric vehicles. So you can visit their page to learn more about what they're doing. But a few points here, they're actively advocating for policies that make EVs more accessible, pushing for the utility sector to invest in EV programs, doing outreach to expose the public to the benefit of EVs, and campaigning for transit agencies and school districts to invest in electric buses. And at that link, actually, they have a flyer about electric buses, which may be useful or interesting for your attendees. All right, so other helpful links that may help you answer some questions is on driveelectricweek.org. We have a resources page with some online event resources. On our website, we'll also post the recording of this webinar with the slides so that you can click out to any of these links on the slides. Plug-in America has a used EV buyer's guide. So, it's helpful just to make sure that we're talking about how EVs can be accessible for everyone. You can also visit and see the status of the Volkswagen settlement funds. If the funds aren't already being used to promote EVs in your community, you can start to petition your local government to do so. There's also an article on how EVs are cleaner cars from cradle to grave. A common misconception is that because through the production of electric vehicles, they're no cleaner than gas vehicles, and that's simply not the case. Finally, you can visit the U.S. Department of Energy e-gallon tool, and this is really cool because it shows the average price of EV fuel per state in the U.S. based on electric gallons. This is helpful because it puts the price in terms that people are familiar with and they can understand, instead of telling them how many cents it is per kilowatt hour, which is not really familiar to a lot of people. All right, so now we're interested in how we can help you with online events. In addition to the questions you may have put in the chat, definitely feel free to email us if there's any other way we can help you with online events. And now I'm going to stay on this slide. I'm going to start reading through the questions and see what we've got. Okay, so one question, would you supply materials to Canadians? Currently, we don't supply materials to events in Canada, although we greatly appreciate your support and all the events you hold every year for Drive Electric Week. But there are electric vehicle nonprofits in Canada, and in fact, there is one that offers a guide on all the different electric vehicles and their prices. So there's definitely material available to you. Next, what is the expected life of Nissan's electric car batteries? So Nissan, like some other manufacturers, has a warranty for their battery for 8 years or 120, I think it's 100,000 miles, 8 years or 100,000 miles. Batteries are expected to last the lifetime of your vehicle. And in this case, Nissan has a warranty guaranteeing that.
I could add to that I just purchased last fall a Nissan Leaf 2013 for my daughter, and that one is already 7 years old car, and it still had 84% of the battery capacity left there, so I can easily see that lasting another 7-8 years. So as you said, lifetime of the car.
Awesome, thank you, Yuka. Okay, so next, how would you suggest we pitch EVs to high schoolers who aren't really interested or investing in purchasing at the moment, but still should be considering EVs and becoming familiar. Elaine, I don't know if you might have some experience with that. I know Electric Auto does a high school program.
Yes, we actually are in the process. We're getting close to completion on a whole presentation for high school students. And one of the things, high school students are just keenly aware of climate change. And that's a great way to get them involved. And then, of course, you know, the other way is that, you know, for the ones that do like performance, you know, that's what got me interested in electric vehicles. You know, I told people when I purchased my car, at the time, I knew nothing about electric vehicles, and I didn't really care if it used rocket fuel. I loved that performance. So, you know, just to get kids educated on the benefits of driving electric and the relationship to climate change and clean air, that really turns them on and gets them going. So, and Electric Auto will have a great presentation that will be all online that we can share with different schools around the country.
And since I'm sure that most of the high schoolers don't have too much money to spend for their everyday things, driving electric is so much cheaper that it leaves more money in their pockets to use something for something else. So that might be also a good thing there to share with people. And again, there are really affordable used electric cars available. You can find Nissan Leafs, for example, from $6,000 to $8,000 price range right now, and there's no cheaper car to drive than something like that.
Yeah, and also
nice.
if you can find a couple of students in a school that or even one student that does drive electric, that we found that works so well. You know, because they realize they're not having to go. Their friends are all complaining about having to pay for gas, and then, you know, they're just plugging in at night, and typically mom and dad aren't charging them for the electricity. And so, you know, it's a good thing. And so a lot of the younger students that we've run into that are aware of electric vehicles tell us that their goal is to never own a gas vehicle. Even though they don't own a vehicle yet, they don't want to ever own a gas vehicle.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. Maybe that's a good pledge idea for any high school presentations.
Yes.
The good old no plug, no deal approach.
Exactly. All right. So next question is, what do you recommend for in-car camera and recording equipment? Well, you know, what Plug in America has done so far is we've had someone else in the passenger seat recording, and this does make it safer for the driver, you know, and it also allows that other person to control the steadiness of the video. But if any of our other speakers have other ideas, that'd be great.
I haven't personally used any so far, but I would think that something like GoPro would work really well for that, because what you want there to have there is have a really wide angle view when you do the video. So I think that would work well.
Yeah, the GoPros work really well. I do a lot of electric car guest drives around the country, and we often have someone set up. And the nice thing about GoPros is that you can get them really inexpensively now, and they come with a whole variety of, you know, the bracket that just suction cups to a window or a surface, so you can mount it pretty much anywhere in the car to get the best view, or even outside of the car. So they're very, very helpful.
Awesome. And then we have an online event question. How long should you have breakout discussions, and do you use them instead of Q&A?
Well, if my experience is that I would definitely not use them instead of Q&A. They are a little different tool, and I usually have asked people to just do 5 minutes or less, for the breakout room discussions. That usually is enough. The cool thing about the breakout room tool is that when you think about in-person events, it's sometimes really hard to get people talking in a small groups. And then when they start talking, it's really hard to stop them talking. But the breakout rooms make sure that that happens very well. So that's the advantage of those. I would use longer times than 5 minutes if I would have them do some kind of a project, like when I'm talking to architects and developers about EV infrastructure development things. In those kind of workshops, I might give them 10 minutes because they have to choose a case that they're working on some building and start to think about how would they put charging infrastructure into that building, and then they will end up reporting back about it. So that's only a time I would use a little longer times, but usually I would say the 5 minutes or less is probably right.
Awesome, thank you. And we have another question. Would the virtual test drives be pre-recorded only? So the answer to that is definitely not. You know, pre-recorded videos give you a little more control over the quality, but you can definitely do a live test drive, and that, you know, may even be kind of a selling point for your presentation.
Yeah, if I can add to that, we've seen a couple of people do the live, kind of a live Zoom test drive, and it works really well because people can ask questions in real time, and you know, then it's more like they're right there and they can interact with you. So that is very helpful. And even once the test drive is over, or even throughout the test drive, they can ask, you know, well, how much leg room is there in the back? You know, can you sit in the back seat so that I can see that? Can I see the size of the trunk? You know, all kinds of different questions. So live test drives work very, very well.
Okay, great. All right.
And while you're pausing, if I can add too, that if you can even do, you know, get with a dealer in your area that, you know, maybe go check out the new Nissan Leaf and do that live so that people can interact and ask questions. That works really well. We had a chapter do a night at the dealership that was very well received.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, and then on that note, you know, that way you can make sure the dealership or that dealer salesperson is EV knowledgeable, or even, you know, if it's safe, maybe have another person there, an EV owner, ready to answer questions the dealer can't.
Exactly.
All right, so that's all the time we have for today. Yeah, I'm sorry we couldn't get to all the questions, but if you have any more, definitely email us. For next steps that we hope you'll take, you can host a virtual event. You know, any individual or organization is welcome to register an event on driveelectricweek.org. You can register an in-person or online event. Also, we will have 2 other webinars for Drive Electric Week. One will be on marketing your event and will include lots of tips for online events. Finally, definitely connect with EAA chapters. You can also check out plugstar.com to find EV trained dealers in your area to work with, in the example Elaine and I were just talking about. And definitely follow our social media channels for updates like upcoming webinars, prize drawings, and other program updates. Thank you so much, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed today's webinar.
Thanks, Kylie.
Thank you. Yeah, special thank you to our speakers. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.